Now, last week I did a video on the country of Georgia. So the government had proposed a law, and that law would require NGOs and media organizations to register as a so-called foreign agent if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. Now, to me personally, this clearly seems a legitimate attempt by the Georgian government to prevent foreign organizations from gaining too much influence over their country, just like many other countries that have quite similar laws in place that are meant to protect them from foreign influences. And especially a country like Georgia, which certainly geographically is of such strategic importance. In my opinion, it's a must for the government to have such laws in place. Now, this is Nicholas Samkaradze. He's a member of the ruling Dream Party in Georgia, and he explains why they believe a law like this is necessary and why they need to implement it now, just before the elections.
Because the elections are upcoming, and we see that the foreign interference into elections in any country has become a standard practice, and the foreign interference is done not through political parties only, but also through non-governmental organizations. Therefore, we need the transparency of funding of non-governmental organizations.
Now, of course, Georgian citizens can still disagree with this law or disagree with some of the details of this law, as many Georgians do, because they believe it might hurt their ambitions to one day join the EU or maybe even NATO. But remember, it is a democratically elected government that has decided on the so-called foreign agents law, because apparently they believe that that is the right decision to make for their country. Now, speaking of foreigners, let's see how the West responds to these domestic Georgian developments. Now, this is an article from Euronews, and it says Borrell, and by the way, Borrell is Josep Borrell, who is the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. That's his official title. So Borrell denounces Georgia's Russian law. Look at how they're framing this. I mean, it's not called the Russian law, but it seems like most Western mainstream media outlets are calling it the Russian law just to frame it a certain way, which is highly propagandistic if you ask me. Anyway, Borrell denounces Georgia's Russian law and demands its withdrawal. I mean, who are you, Josep Borrell? Who are you to demand its withdrawal? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that Georgia was supposed to be a sovereign country. Now, this is Peter Stano, I'm not sure. He's the lead spokesperson of the EU for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. Let's see what he has to say about this.
I wouldn't speak about suspension, about measures, about sanctions now. First, the European Union spoke very clearly what we expect. We expect the Georgian ruling majority to withdraw the law. It was now adopted, but it needs to be withdrawn because it is a huge obstacle on the accession path. If they don't do it, if they continue in the course of action we have seen over the past few weeks, then the European Union will decide other measures. At this stage, as I said, we need to discuss with the member states to see what member states find the most appropriate.
Now, this is one of the biggest reasons why so many people around the world don't really like the West. I mean, the absolute arrogance, the moral supremacy. I mean, I'm Peter Stano or whatever. I'm from the EU, and we're gonna tell you exactly how you should run your country. I mean, isn't the EU supposed to be a business deal? Then do business with Georgia or don't do business with Georgia, but stop trying to tell them how to run their country. Stop trying to strong-arm them into running their country exactly like you want them to. But that is exactly how this guy is talking, and that's why so many people don't like the West.
I think we have to send a very clear message. We have to withdraw financial assistance for EU finance projects, especially what comes to the government. We have to keep projects with the civic society, definitely. But I believe we have to send a very formal and probably painful politically for ruling coalition message in order to stop them at this stage.
So fanatical. I mean, this guy is so fanatical. You'd think he's Georgian. He's not. He's from Lithuania or something like that. But some of these guys are so fanatical, it's almost like And this is going to sound crazy, but it's almost like they have some kind of investment in the country of Georgia. It's almost like some of these outsiders are trying to decide on the future of Georgia. So, foreigners deciding on the future of Georgia. I mean, isn't that exactly what this foreign agents law is supposed to protect Georgia against? Think about that. But anyway, it's pretty clear that the EU has a lot of criticism about this law. And to be honest, I'm not completely sure why. Why should this law be such an obstacle? Yeah, of course, other than it preventing Western organizations from getting their hands on Georgian assets. But other than that, what is the actual problem here?
EU officials continue to apply pressure, saying the bill could end Georgia's bid to join the EU.
Instead of making general comments, the EU should tell us which article of the law is not compatible with the European standards.
But of course, it's not only the EU. Take a look at this article from Al Jazeera. It says, NATO warns Georgia foreign agents bill is step in wrong direction. Again, the arrogance. I mean, we NATO, we know best. You should do what we tell you to do. Now, to take it a step further even, take a look at this. So, US Assistant Secretary of State James O'Brien, who visited Tbilisi, by the way, Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia, on Tuesday said Washington could impose financial and travel restrictions unless the bill underwent change or if security forces forcibly broke up protests, as has occurred in recent weeks. Now, first of all, security forces forcibly breaking up protests. You mean just like the American authorities have done with the peaceful protests against genocide in Gaza? Is that the kind of breaking up of protests you're referring to, or? But it's unbelievable. I mean, they're not even hiding it anymore. Again, this is a democratically elected government that has made a decision because they seemingly, genuinely believe that that decision is going to help their country. And then the Assistant Secretary of State, James O'Brien, comes along and says, well, we don't like that. You have to change that. You have to change your decision. And if you don't, well, we are going to sanction you. Unbelievable. I mean, it's very difficult to find a word that correctly describes this behavior by the US and NATO and the EU other than blackmail.